everyone, Team Sorcerers here, and welcome back to What If Wednesday. Yeah, this is back to back again, and this is another one about Hypno-Disc, my all-time favourite Robot Wars robot. And I actually thought of this yesterday, or at least it is yesterday at the time of recording, and that is the differences between the Series 5 version of Hypno-Disc and the Series 6 version. Now, it's been mentioned that the Series 6 version isn't as strong as the Series 5 version, and it got me thinking, what if the Series 5 version, shut up phone, was used in Series 6 instead? Because I feel like the disc was definitely a lot better and more damaging, despite the evolution of robots around about that time. So Hypno-Disc's heat would play out the same way as in the real timeline, with Hypno-Disc destroying everything in its path. Granny's Revenge 2, Barbarous 2, what was the name of that yellow robot? 4x4, that was it. And Bulldog Breed. But would it be able to stand up to Tornado? That's the big question here. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure it would, because Tornado would definitely put the scoop on, and it could end up going a similar way as their fight in the real timeline. I mean, Hypno-Disc's only hope would be to strike the back of Tornado and rip the link out. But obviously it's really difficult to get behind Tornado, unless of course your robot is Storm 2, Chaos 2 or Bigger Brother. But yeah, it would still be a bit of a struggle for Hypno-Disc, and I feel like it would still lose on a judge's decision, and would still go into the loser's melee with Bigger Brother and Spawn again. But let's see if things play out differently here. Now obviously Spawn again is still having interference problems, and therefore has no chance of winning against either of them. Whereas Hypno-Disc is just constantly slamming into both flipper robots, doing a ton of damage. But I don't know whether or not Hypno-Disc would break down here. It definitely did in the real timeline after ricocheting off Bigger Brother and the arena wall, and then it just stopped dead. Not sure what it was that made it stop dead, but I guess maybe the shock of it maybe loosened the battery, or loosened the link, the safety link. But it depends whether or not the exact same thing would happen here. I'm not so sure. Because I remember, in the Annihilator of Extreme 1, which I believe was filmed after Series 5, it did have a few problems in that, but obviously a year would have passed and the Rose boys would have found a way to make it so that those problems don't happen. But yeah, it could still go two ways. If Hypno-Disc still breaks down or loses another way, like getting pushed in a pit again, then nothing changes and the timeline carries on as normal. But if Hypno-Disc doesn't break down, it is still able to keep going, then it's able to keep going for bigger brother and just shredding it, knocking pieces off, just like in the Series 5 fight. But obviously, bigger brother still keeps going, because obviously, while the armour is just ripped to shreds and damaged, the inner workings are still intact and fully functional, just like after the Series 5 fight. But this time, Hypno-Disc is more careful and keeps away from the pit, and it would go to a judge's decision, and Hypno-Disc would win through that and get back in and then fight Terahertz instead of bigger brother. Now again, with the Terahertz matchup, I can't remember if I covered this matchup in a previous episode or not, but yeah, it's all down to best guess, but I feel like this would go the same way as if Terahertz fought Fluffy, where Hypno-Disc is able to hit Terahertz on the side, just rip through the polycarbonate. Terahertz isn't quite quick enough to hit Hypno-Disc with the axe, considering it doesn't seem that easy to control. But yeah, I don't think it would get to a point where Terahertz would strike Hypno-Disc with the axe, and Hypno-Disc would just keep running into Terahertz, shredding the polycarbonate, maybe even knocking bits off. But I think regardless of whether it will go to a judge's decision or not, Hypno-Disc still wins and goes through to the grand final instead. Now with Hypno-Disc in the grand final instead, pairings would end up being changed around a bit, and again, it depends whether or not the producers want Razor and Hypno-Disc in the top two again. If they didn't, then it would mean Razor would fight Tornado 1 round early, and Firestorm 4 would fight Hypno-Disc. So, yeah, again, the pairings can go one of two ways, depending. So let's go with this first one. So Razor fights Tornado 1 round early, and that plays out the same way with not that, with Tornado winning through a judge's decision because of the frame, and Razor losing its title. Meanwhile, in the other round, it's basically a repeat performance of the third place player from the 5th Wars. Hypno-Disc is able to slam into the side of Firestorm and do a bit of damage there. Whether or not it would rip off the wheel guards is another matter. I didn't think about that before, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Firestorm's armour is supposed to be a bit tougher. Or at least during Series 5 it was tougher than in Extreme 1. But I feel like Hypno-Disc could still get through it, but obviously, as I said before, Firestorm 4 is an absolute beast and more aggressive, and would still flip Hypno-Disc over like a few times, although Hypno-Disc can just get straight back up. And it proves to be a closer, more epic fight, and this time they'll be a bit more careful of the pit again, because obviously before they both fell in at the same time. But But ultimately, I think Firestorm could manoeuvre to the side and just push Hypno-Disc and more likely get it in the pit. Either that or it could probably go to a judge's decision, and maybe Hypno-Disc could win it through damage, even though the damage isn't exactly fatal. I'm not sure how the style would be rated here. Both would definitely be aggressive, and both would definitely be pretty controlled. Yeah, it's really tough, but I feel like Firestorm 4 would more likely win despite the damage. And then Hypno-Disc and Razor would actually face off in the playoff. And because it's the Series 5 form, I feel like Hypno-Disc would more likely win that. But of course that doesn't even matter, considering neither of them return for the 7th Wars. And then Firestorm would fight Tornado in the grand final, and that plays out the same way as their fight in the real timeline, with Tornado winning. And the seeding list for the 7th Wars would be pretty much the same, so I'm not going to cover Series 7. But, of course, if Hypno-Disc did win against Firestorm, then Firestorm 4 would be in the playoff again and would face off against Razor. And of course, Razor would just dominate. It would go basically the same way as their real fight in Extreme 2 in the All-Stars final, and Firestorm would end up finishing 4th for a change. And as for the final, it's between Hypno-Disc and Tornado again. But I don't know, I feel like it would be a repeat performance of the earlier fights, because it's hard to say what Hypno-Disc could really do to deal with Tornado. Because unfortunately Hypno-Disc just doesn't do well against push bots. The only exception being Stegosaurus, of course, but it kind of got lucky that a wheel was jammed up. But yeah, I feel like Hypno-Disc still wouldn't have a chance. I mean, it could maybe slice the side of Tornado, but that's basically it. I mean, it's practically superficial damage. So yeah, unfortunately, Hypno-Disc doesn't quite manage to get the title, finishing second for a second time, and Tornado still wins. Of course, again, like I said, Hypno-Disc's only hope is striking the back of Tornado and ripping the link out, or hoping Tornado accidentally drives into the pit. Now, funnily enough, this kind of did almost happen in their fight in the real timeline, and that's going to be something I will cover in another episode. So, yeah, thanks for watching and stay tuned for that one.